Hey, business building warrior, welcome to Silent Sales Machine Radio. I'm your host, Jim Cochran. We have a couple guests coming on the show here in just a moment. I'm talking about Branden and Shane. They're business partners, been doing the Amazon REPLENS business seriously for a little over a year. They've done a couple $100,000 worth of business so far. They have their eyes set on doing a lot more than that in 2023. That's why I'm recording this. We're in early 2023, and they've just completed their first full year of doing this while working full-time with a construction business. And they've both been in the construction industry for a very long time. I think they said a couple decades on the interview today. So that's their background. That's what the business they understand, but they're starting to apply some of their business skills to e-commerce, which is new territory for them. They're friends of a good friend of this community, Rich Potter. He's the guy that created the Proven Wholesale Sourcing course, provenwholesalesourcing.com, which is one of the modules, one of the many modules included inside the Proven Amazon course. They got their start kind of hanging out with him, getting some training from him, and then they took off. They're super excited about their business. They ask a lot of really good questions. We dive deep into some different challenges that they're having. It's not all sunshine and rainbows on today's episode. They've got some challenges they've hit, but they're very excited about what they're seeing. They've built a beautiful business. They're finding a lot of great replen products that they can sell. They talk through how they're doing it. They're using a replens foundation to go after wholesalers. And you've heard us talk about that on past episodes of this show. They're using a tool called Smart Scout, silentjim.com/SS, as in Smart Scout, is where you can go to get that tool. All the tools we'll mention today will be listed in the show notes as links, so you can go check them out, because there's a few other tools and resources we mentioned today as well. We talk a lot about the Proven Conference. They were talking about maybe coming this year. Hey, what's it like? So I spend a few minutes describing what the event is like and what they can expect. Go to theprovenconference.com to get details on our July 6th through 8th, 2023 event. We'll announce the city soon. Tickets will be on sale soon, but you can go start to get a feel for the event at theprovenconference.com. I think that's all the announcements we need to cover for now before we bring our guests on the show. Have fun hanging out with me today with Mr. Branden and Shane, two really great guys who are on a nice trajectory to build a really great business this year after having some solid results last year. Let's bring them onto the show right now. So Branden and Shane, welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, thank you for having us.
Pleasure to meet you. Looking forward to hearing your story. We just met, and I think we're going to start with you, Branden. Let's get into your story. Let's hear about it.
All right. Well, it was a couple of years ago. Things were going a little bit rough, with COVID and the economy and things, and I found myself losing my job, and I needed to do something else. I've been in construction all my life, different facets of it, so I needed something else. I remember seeing some ads for some e-commerce, hey, get rich quick kind of thing, guy standing next to his fancy car and stuff.
Right.
It did intrigue me, but I was very skeptical.
Good.
To see those kind of ads all the time, you don't know what's real, what's not. Maybe a couple months later, when I really started thinking about if I wanted to be interested in it, I saw a post from an old friend of mine, an old roommate. And he wasn't on social media very much, but he decided to post about his Amazon business and how he'd been doing. It was in his, I believe at that time, his 5th year. He's been on this podcast several times, Rich Potter. And
oh, you go way back with Rich, huh? Okay.
Rich, I've known him for about 20 years. And so as soon as I saw the post, I quickly messaged him and said, dude, I need to know if this is real or not. And so he said, all right, let's go have lunch. And so we made an appointment, and I had lunch with him, and I just got into it. I was like, dude, just tell me all about this. What is going on?
That's a good friend, man. Rich, you went to, because I'll tell you right now, as soon as you start posting stuff like that online, people that you forgot you were friends with in high school come out of the woodwork and like, hey, can I pick your brain over lunch? You're just like, you can't possibly go to lunch that many times. So yeah, that's right. Great. That you guys must have been pretty tight back.
We were really good friends, and and of course we met when we were single, and so he'd gotten married. I've been divorced and single for years and years, and so you kind of lose that contact. It's a kind of different world, but we were really happy to reconnect. And so yeah, we jumped into it, and he told me how he started, and it really intrigued me. And then he said, "Come over to the warehouse that he had just moved into," and he said, "Come and see it in action." And so I went over there and I saw it. I saw, talked to some of his employees, and I was like, okay, now I'm into this now. I really want to research this and see what's happening.
Yeah, especially the speed his business grew within just a couple of years. He had a robust operation.
Exactly. And so that was super exciting to learn about. Um, and I saw his operation and the kind of all-star team that he kind of assembled for himself, and how it was going. And then of course what he did was he got into the, hey, I coach. I do coaching classes. And of course he mentioned you and affiliated with you. And he said, "Are you interested?" And I was like, "Of course I'm interested." And he said, "Well, I got a class that's like next week." And then he told me, what the cost was. And of course, at that time, I was poor. I had no money to my name. And so I told him, I was like, "Hey, man, I'll see if I can. Let's see." And that's where Shane pops in. Shane and I go way back as well. And we've been really good friends. And I just happened, I think it was maybe a day or two after I talked with Rich, where I was talking to Shane, and it just came up. I was like, "Man, I'm thinking about doing this Amazon thing." And I started talking to him. He started asking me a bunch of questions. And I told him about the coaching. And he said, "Let's do it." And so he was going to put the money forth for me to coach and learn, and then act as the investor. And we'd go in, 50-50 as business partners. And just, he said, "If we're going to do this, we're going to do it right." And so that launched.
That's great. So you started off, we've got and I'll stick a link to it in the show notes for today's episode. But from time to time, we host live events with Rich. We fill the room, somewhere between 5 and 10 people at a time. And you see his operation. And he's the author, for those who don't know, I'm sure you guys know, but just kind of keeping the audience up to speed here. He's the content creator for the provenwholesalesourcing.com class. That's one of the many modules inside the Proven Amazon course at this point. But as the creator of that course, we built a whole experience around those who wanted to go to his outfit just outside Phoenix, right? Right. That's what I always say, Phoenix. I know it's a big state, but that gets people close enough. And you see his warehouse and his team and his products, and that's something we've offered many times in the past. I'll stick a link in the show notes. You can call our coaching office and discuss that if you're interested. But that's the experience you guys had, and because you were friends, he got you into one of those classes. And so that's how you kind of got your start with selling on Amazon. Now, are you REPLENS focused, would you say? Or
yes.
Wholesale or okay?
Well, the way we started in stores, going and scanning. Scanning lots and lots of product. I mean, we were almost obsessed with it. Any of our free time, we were at a store, whether together or even separately, sending each other links and pictures of, "Hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that?" And then going to the office and researching. And so I would say, about 100% of our products for the first probably 4 or 5 months were from stores, from retail. Then we kind of just was like, wait a minute, there might be a better way of doing this, And so then we started jumping to online, doing online, arbitrage. And then we didn't think we were experienced enough to do the whole wholesale thing. It was kind of one of those things like, how do we even jump into this? I mean, Rich does coach on that, but we felt like we were too new that we would get any accounts. But then we just said, let's just go for it. Started researching, sending out emails, and started getting some accounts. And then we were like, man, going to stores is kind of a waste of time now. We'd rather just sit in our office, get everything shipped to us, and we then transitioned to that.
So quick question, not to go down a bunny trail, but I'm curious, are you guys using Smart Scout?
We are. Yeah.
Okay. I figured you might be, because Rich loves that software. silentjimdotcom/SS. It's a link, our discount link to a software tool called Smart Scout. Rich Potter teaches in the Proven Wholesale Sourcing course how he uses that tool to locate wholesalers and to kind of dive in. I love that trajectory of your journey, you just being excited. E-commerce, something new. You're scanning barcodes. You're finding stuff for price A at Walmart and selling it for price B online. And just that initial excitement fueled you. then you started thinking, how could we be more efficient? Started doing some online sourcing. Then you kind of stepped into wholesale. But this is all being done, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming this is the case because this is what we all teach, Rich included, the REPLENS model. You're using Keepa to analyze your inventory, correct? Okay.
Mhm.
So that's great. Well, what's Branden leaving out, Shane? Look, we haven't heard from you yet. Fill in your perspective on this story and any gaps we've left so far in the story.
Yeah, I mean, he's mentioned, much the story there. When he came to me, I own a construction company, and I at the time just busy doing my thing. And he's like, "Hey, tell me about Amazon." What was funny to me is when he told me kind of the way you sell on Amazon and the way it works, I was kind of surprised. I was like, "What do you mean? You just go to the store and buy stuff and then sell it?" I'm like, "Okay,
It
let's
sounds
go."
too simple, right?
Yeah. I'm like, "What the heck?" But so he told me about Rich's training course, and I was like, "Dude, I don't have time. I have no time to go. I'll pay for it. I'll do whatever I got to do, but you need to go. You need to go figure this out. I don't have the time to focus on that, you know." And so he did. So he went and did that. And as we jumped in it, what I found for me was, like Branden was saying, it was kind of exciting to go out. Like it was like a treasure hunt. You're looking for like these products and stuff. We're at the dollar store, whatever we're doing. And we're like, "Hey, check this out." Like you said, bouncing stuff off from one to another. And yeah, it just became fun. And it was just unusual to me because I'd heard of Amazon selling before. And I had like family members or other people that kind of their focus was, "Hey, I'm going to go find the next big thing. And I'm going to get like 10,000 of these things. We're going to sell them out. I'm going to make a bunch of money." And I was like, that sounds kind of, I don't know about that. It sounded kind of risky, just kind of sounded difficult. But I learned that Amazon, the stuff you buy on Amazon is from people like us. I
Right.
didn't even know that. I didn't even know how Amazon technically worked.
Yep.
I thought it was Amazon, themselves. They sell all their stuff, whatever. So it was interesting to learn it. So at the beginning, I was like, I have no time for this. But then it just became exciting, and I found time. So next thing you know, like I was almost doing this full time. I stepped away from my other business and let people operate that. And I was, they were trying to get a hold of me, and like nobody can get a hold of Shane. Nobody can, I'm shopping online. I'm like looking for stuff and running around to the stores. And it was,
you're goofing around on Keepa and learning Smart Scout and sourcing
like
profitable inventory.
Downloading software on my phone and stuff.
Yeah,
And
probably making nowhere near as much money with this new venture as you were in your established career, right? Like, but there's so much more excitement. It's like, this is new, this is fun, this could really go somewhere.
Well, the potential is definitely, the potential for the money is obviously there.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And we've experienced some of that, and it's just great to see it. But yeah, I mean, not knowing where you're going to end up financially or whatever, and kind of doing it as a side business. It's now we're hoping to, just build it. And whether it's full-time work for us or we have people working for us or whatever we do, we're excited for what the future holds in that respect.
You've recognized the potential of the opportunity at this point, and you're putting a few more chips into the game here. It sounds like, right? Taking a little more seriously than at first. It was just kind of something to try, and it slowly escalated. So how long, at what point were we talking where you kind of sat down, went to lunch with Rich? When was that?
That was October of 2020.
Okay. Gotcha. That gives us, so a little over 2 years plus a few months ago.
Yeah.
And you jumped in, started learning REPLENS, wholesale, had Rich there as your guide, which is a great guide to have. Right. So, all right, cool. Well, keep the story going, guys, wherever you want to go from here, Branden.
So it took us a while to get everything set up after we coached.
Like a year.
Almost a year.
Really? Because you're busy guys, you're in construction.
Exactly. It was trying to find the time to get together. We would try to do once a week, and it just wouldn't ever work out with all of our scheduling and stuff. But we finally sat down and said, we got to get this going. We did it. And then we had our first sale the day before Thanksgiving of 2021.
Gotcha. So a little over a year ago, a couple months ago.
Was our first full year.
Yeah. So in that year of kind of creating the business, that's literally what it was. Like we were like, okay, let's pick a company name. Let's get a company set up. Let's get our tax ID set up. Let's do all this sort of stuff. Let's get an account on Amazon, get your business set up on Amazon. And it took forever. I mean, just because we just weren't, like you said, we just weren't finding the time. Like a couple hours a week, we would get together and you know how it gets if you just kind of discuss things but don't actually put it into play. Yeah. You're like talking. You're just like, oh, well, let's just talk. And it's like, okay, less talk, more action. And, fortunately, football season kicked around. And I was like, Branden, okay, coming over Monday nights, Thursday nights, whatever. We're going to watch football. Then we're going to focus on that.
So who's your team? Are you guys loyal to the local team or?
Well, we're not happy about our teams right now. But
I'm a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, I'm a Packers fan.
So. Wow. Good rivalry there for sure, though, historically, right?
Some fun games. Wearing our jerseys with each other. It's been fun.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I was a Cowboys guy until the 90s when they became the Dallas Convicts, and I kind of lost interest at that point. You know what hurt me as a Cowboy fan was when they let go of Coach Landry.
Oh, really?
Man, that hurt me deep because when I was younger, man, I loved that dude. So yeah. So I used to be there right there with you, man. But
yeah,
we got a team that's been fun on and off here. The Colts here in Indianapolis, kind of a tragic year for us too, though. Arguably the most tragic story in the NFL right now. But anyway, we don't want to get off on that tangent too far. But no, that's great. So you guys are hanging out, watching some football, talking business, and that's when you find yourself kind of chipping away at this thing. And for the listener's standpoint, people who are hearing this, I don't want people to think, wow, it takes a year chipping away. Well, we've had people do this, the whole process of getting set up and getting everything established and getting their Amazon account in a week or two.
Yeah, right. That's fine. Yeah.
Well, that's really,
but
it's kind of close to what happened because that year, that was literally us just sitting around talking about it. Like, it wasn't until we decided to sit down and we're like, okay, let's get together and get this moving. Yeah, it was, within a couple of months, we had everything. Yeah. The business lined up, the accounts lined up, understanding how to add something into Amazon and sell it. I mean, that all happened really quick. So yeah, it doesn't take a long time if you just put your mind to it. We were just kind of being lazy about it, with other things, working full time. It was just, it just took a second. But once
one of 50 things you're trying to get to kind of thing. I mean, that's the way real life is, right?
Yeah.
But I love that initial momentum. Everyone always mentions that first sale because that is quite a pivot point where you're like, all right, this works. Maybe I didn't make a lot of money, but this works. I know the process. I'm legit now. Amazon likes me. I'm signed up. I've got all the boxes checked. So what started happening then?
Well, so that first sale that came in was just pure excitement, right? Okay, it works. We put something in, it's sold. And it works. We were actually, we had some goals that we set for sales our first month, second month, third month, and up to the summer. And we kind of blew those out of the water right away. We were selling way more than we thought we would, getting the buy box more than we thought we would. And so, of course, that fueled our excitement even more. And so it was a struggle at first to keep inventory in because we were very limited on our time. He's working on his business. I had to work full time to pay the bills in other ways. And so we were only able to meet once a week and not only do our research, but prep and send product in. And that happened for, 6-7 months of doing it that way. Sometimes maybe twice a week we can meet, but it was very limited. But we were still doing pretty good for just that kind of time we were putting in. We were still doing a lot in sales in our eyes,
What
were you doing to put some numbers to this? What'd you do those, month 3, month 4 after getting rocking?
Well, Branden came to me and he's like, hey, I want to hit. So this was, we were kind of talking about this in January because December of 2021? December 2021 was our first full month. And so in January, Branden's like, hey, we want to hit 10 grand a month in sales. And, when we're sitting there, we're looking at each of our sales. Dude, we sold this. And it was like $5 here, $10, whatever it was. We're like, okay, we got to scale up like this. And what's funny is we did that in January. We busted that in January,
Nice.
So our goal for the summer, we hit in January, and then it just got more and more, just busier from there and more sales at that point. And, we're already this year 100% over what we did, at this time last year,
That's
and
great. So here we are in January of 2023.
Right.
What are you on track for here? We got several days left in the month still, but what are you looking at for this month? Just so people can contrast the difference between that month a year ago.
If we stay on track from what we've been doing, we'll be close to 22,000 sales.
Yeah, almost double what we did.
Doubled what you did. Yeah, that's a nice trajectory. And as a business owner, Shane, you got an appreciation for, that's nice growth, man.
Yeah.
100% year over year for the same month.
Right. I've owned my business since 2005, this construction company. And over the years, you scale up a little bit, just get busier and busier and busier. But I've never just doubled in, revenue. That's crazy,
Right. And this business has its plateaus as well, but you can scale so fast. I mean, you guys saw it in Rich. We've got a good number of people who've been guests on this podcast. It's not the typical experience necessarily, but it's not unrealistic or unreasonable to expect that you put the time and the energy and effort into it, you can double year over year, several years in a row initially as you're starting up. We've seen many people do that, or even faster than that in some cases. But there's other people who it's just an extra few $100 a week and they're content there and they kind of drift along, and that's great. I would argue that's harder to maintain than growth is, though, but that's a different story for another day. But all right, so where do you guys want to go from here? Because I have a feeling people who are listening to this would love to hear, how do you find your inventory? What are you guys selling? How do you determine a good product from a bad product? Those kind of topics. But is there anything else we could draw from your story before we transition into that?
Yeah. Okay. So even though we had a pretty good year, we feel like it was a completely a learning year. There were a lot of mistakes we made.
Yeah.
A lot of things that we kind of figured out on our own, the way we researched, we had to tweak. There were things that we thought maybe weren't as important that ended up being hugely important with the way we researched with Keepa and RevSeller. Looking at products not only for like the last 3 months or a year, but their whole lifetime as a listing and seeing trends. And we weren't really focused on that the first 6 months. And then there's times where we're just, we had this listing that looked like a rock star. And by the time we got it listed, we weren't making any money. It had tanked, lots of sellers, whatever the factor was. And so we feel like also with going over to online arbitrage and going through wholesalers, we're finding a lot more product. And we just wanted things getting in there to sell. Right. But now we're looking at higher price point products, putting more capital into the business and really hoping it, makes it grow. We might not do a whole lot more in sales as a number, but we think our profitability is going to raise quite a bit.
Yeah. That's what this model looks like as you mature, is you start to recognize some of those spinning your wheels, REPLENS, and how to quickly kind of step away from the ones that aren't doing well for you. And you start realizing that turning $5 bills into $10 bills is nice, but turning $50 bills into $100 bills is better with the same amount of work. Just add a couple zeros to both numbers, right? And you're doubling your money either way. Why not invest in some of that more expensive inventory? You get confident in your ability to pick winners and losers. And just to keep the listeners up to speed again, we may have some brand new listeners who've never heard this program before. We talked about Keepa. I can't encourage you more strongly than I am about to right now. Please go watch podcast episode 369. Learn what Keepa is and why we talk about it so much on this podcast. That's all I'm going to say for now. And you mentioned a tool called RevSeller, and that just helps you. You can see right on your screen. I know you guys know this, but for the listeners' sake, right on your screen, right on Amazon, you're just bumping around like you're shopping, but you can see, if I was able to buy this product for $5, how profitable would it be for me to sell at the current buy box price? So you can just kind of see winners and losers really fast right on your screen. It's a great tool. provenamazoncourse.com/RevSeller has a great discount there. All those links will be in the show notes. So just doing a little favor to the new listeners in the community. Thanks for doing that with me, guys. But so you start learning some lessons about picking good inventory, being a little Like, the picky is the right word. Like, are we going to really spend time on this one? Is it worth our time and energy or not? And looking back at the history, I like that you said that. It's better to get instead of just getting a 1 month or even 3 month maybe window, the thing Keepa does, it allows you to look back in time, in some cases, a couple of years. Is this a seasonal item that spikes every Christmas? Do we want to get into that right now? That kind of data. So what are some products you have gotten into without giving away or creating any competitors for yourself, kind of using this process? Talk us through that.
Okay. You talking like specific stuff or like brand?
How have you found it? Like, tell us the story. Don't give us the
cosmetics, for
exact
example,
name.
or something, or whatever. But
Yeah, don't create a competitor for yourself, but tell us the story behind it. Like, did you call them on the phone? Did you send them an email? What kind of products was it? What category did you sell in? That sort of thing.
yeah, well, what's where it kind of got started with us is my mother-in-law. Actually, she apparently knows Rich too, and I didn't know this until later, but she knows Rich, and she started doing Amazon stuff too. And we did a lot of grocery stuff, some cosmetic stuff or whatever. The grocery thing is kind of where it kicked off for us, because we were like Walmart shopping down the aisles or whatever, trying to sell some taco sauce or, whatever we're doing. And, when you get into these wholesalers that they've got these categories that you can go in and see, we were able to kind of compare, okay, well, buying it, say, here at Walmart versus buying it here, we're able to get it, easier, because sometimes you go to these stores and it almost seemed like to us that every time we go find something, say, in a store, a week later, it's almost like we were like, how many other Amazon shoppers are in here finding this stuff, stealing our idea,
Shelves would be empty.
Yeah, we're like, where did it all go? We're running around from store to store to get it. So, moving into being able to get stuff online and have people send it to us or whatever, was really helpful. And you find your profitability is better. You usually get it for a better price, as well as you don't have to go out, drive around from location to location to find it or whatever. So yeah, so grocery was kind of a thing that we got into that. And we learned it helped us learn a lot of lessons, because there was a lot of volume with that. We found a lot of little things. You're making a couple of dollars here. You learn how to list something. You learn how to package it. You learn how to send it in effectively, your prep time and stuff like that. So the volume of doing all that was really actually kind of helpful with our learning process on how to pump things out and, get them into the system,
Now, you said listing. Were you guys creating some new listings, listing new products, or are you just talking about listing against existing products?
Just against existing products.
Very good.
That's one of the things that we're very uneducated about, is creating new listings.
As you should be.
It throws us through for a loop all the time.
Yeah. Well, there's no reason to do it.
Yeah.
We strongly encourage, until you're doing a consistent, I would say $30,000 to $40,000 a month, maybe, is when you start thinking about a private label product, perhaps based on some of the instincts that you've developed, noticing which products move well, and maybe some of those generic worded products that seem to just fly off the shelf for whatever brand this is associated with them. Like, yeah, you know what? Let's go get our own brand to that thing and see if we can take a shot at this using the instincts that you've developed after getting to that level. Or maybe some branded bundles even is a good step, which you can experiment with that even earlier. That's something I would encourage you guys, as something to be looking into in 2023, is that that module in the Proven Amazon course, provenbrandbuilding.com. Spend an evening kind of clicking through that sometime. That'll get you pretty excited about the potential there. I'm not sure if Rich is doing any of that or not, but we've got a student last month did 750,000 in his branded bundle.
Wow. We actually met with Rich last week to we talk to him every once in a while just to sit down, and he had mentioned that because we had been asking him about creating listings and stuff, and he was talking about doing branded bundles, and that's something that we will look into. We don't think that we're ready for it just yet.
No rush.
But that we want to get into maybe a little bit later this year.
Of course. And the premise is easily sourced products, recognized name brands, put in a box that has your branded label on it with some unique component included that adds value to the buyer's experience. And it doesn't have to be anything earth-shattering, but it adds value to their experience of buying the bundle. And now you've got an ASIN where you're the only seller. And that does involve setting up new listings, obviously.
Right.
But that's a, test. You test 3, 4, 5 ideas. The sixth one hits and just takes off. But you're not going 50 or 100 units deep on anything. Just like with REPLENS, you're going an inch deep and testing and go a little deeper if it's working well. Same kind of premise. I think that's a good next step for you guys to start thinking about. And who knows, maybe someday you will have your own private label product, but some people never get there and have no desire to, because even that comes with its own challenges, manufacturing and legal issues and running out of supplies and competitors coming after you. You poke your head up out of the weeds on Amazon and everyone notices and they're coming after you. So why not just go after the low hanging fruit and, pivot and change directions when necessary easily without having a bunch of inventory you can't move. So yeah, you guys are on a great path. Yeah, keep it going. What else do you guys want to talk about?
Like I was saying at the beginning, about how other, people that had told me about Amazon, they were like trying to hop into this, next best thing, like I said. And I mean, to your point and what you were just talking about, I mean, you don't need to do that. You can go get name brand stuff that everybody's already familiar with. You don't have to find the new, random thing that's up and coming. I mean, just find the stuff that sells well and people want. And it can be name brand. It can be, that's, it's already established for you. You don't have to get traffic to some brand new listing. It's already there. You're just putting your inventory in there with them and selling name brand stuff that sells like crazy. It's great.
Yep. We overcomplicate it for sure. New sellers tend to overcomplicate it.
So I actually wanted to mention, I know we mentioned Smart Scout. There is, so Rich in his coaching, he focuses on wholesale and stuff like that. So he encourages to reach out every day, sending out like 10 to 12 emails a day to get accounts and things like that. And there's with Smart Scout, I did one day just decide to go on there and do what he had kind of taught in our coaching. I found a seller, looked at his list of items, and I found kind of an odd item, which is a biodegradable bag. And I noticed there was only a couple listings, but they were selling pretty good. So I decided to reach out to that brand myself. And fortunately, they came back and said, yeah, we want you to sell our stuff on Amazon. And we got an account just like that. And luckily there was, just only a couple other sellers on there, and something that, is a solid seller for us.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love it. How big of a product catalog did they have?
Oh, only 3 items.
Okay. Are you selling all of them or just one of them a good one?
We started with 3, but there's 2 that are a hot seller for us. So we kind of dropped that third one off and we're continuing with 2.
That's a great example of Rich's wholesale approach in action. You contact wholesalers who already have some momentum. They're already working with a couple other sellers typically, but there's room for a third to squeeze in. And that's you. It's these kind of under the radar hot movers that just don't get discovered through typical channels. You're not going to scan a barcode and accidentally come up with it. There's no brand associated with it that brings it up on your screen as an average Amazon shopper, but it's this product that's just selling really well at a nice profit margin. And you build a relationship with the vendor manufacturer, and you're seller number 3 on a hot listing. And often, as Rich does, he'll kind of jockey himself into that number 1 position with the brand and become the guy, and maybe help them get their own Amazon account set up. And that's more advanced strategies that we teach in the proven product partnering module of the Proven Amazon course, is how to partner up with brands and become their exclusive partner and give them their own Amazon account. Now all the sales are flowing through one account and you're getting a percentage of those. And you're helping them kind of fend off resellers and deal with Amazon issues. And it's a way to diversify, because it's not just one Amazon account you're getting paid on anymore. It's how many ever you want to manage.
Right. Yep.
That's another thing to keep in mind as these kind of relationships develop, and you start to notice opportunities like that where you can approach the manufacturer. You've gotten to know them a little bit. You've placed several orders. Hey, why not have that conversation? Worst case they can say is no, but they may really like that proposal. Hey, how about you get an Amazon account and we'll manage it for you? So opportunities everywhere for sure.
Yes.
So what's the price point and what's your sell point, all that on that bag?
There's a single unit and then there's a bundle of 4-pack. So the 4-pack is a price point of 65, and the single is a price point of 19.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's real good. And I'm going to think long and hard. I may go ahead and chop that information out of this episode because I don't want you guys to get any competitors.
It might be kind of hard for them to find what it is. So
Yeah.
Is it? There's plenty of other bags like that out there.
They got bought out. The initial company got bought out by another company.
So we're all good there. No competitor, no worries of competitors. That was just a useful example. Okay, very good. I'm always cautious when I have guests on here. The last thing I want is anything negative coming back on them because they took the time to share with us their story. So yeah, that's great. Okay, good. We're not worried about that ASIN then. But all right, keep the story going. More examples, more maybe some challenges you guys have encountered. Do you want me to brainstorm with you guys on anything you're facing down right now, just to see if we can make some progress?
The challenges.
Yeah, I got some stuff.
Yeah, dude. Let's talk. I mean, I love being realistic on this program. It's not all sunshine and rainbows and bowls of cherries, man. There's times where you got to make some hard decisions. Things don't go right. Let's talk about it. What's on your mind?
So recently, there's things that we've learned appear to be more out of our control. And you got to kind of be prepared for some curveballs thrown at you. And for example, we have a product that was selling great, I mean, when I say great, this particular product, we were probably selling 3 a day of it. Good profit margins. We got plenty of inventory, and Amazon took away the buy box. And for people listening, if you don't know what the buy box is, you better learn what the buy box is, because the buy box is critical. And so there's no buy box, and you just got to click on the little button that says see other selling options or whatever. Yeah. And we even dropped our price a little bit or whatever to try to see if we can get it back. But then all of a sudden our sales just stopped. Fortunately, the buy box just came back.
Yesterday.
Gotcha. How long was it gone?
Like a couple months?
Yeah. 2 months.
Yeah.
And it just, our sales just dead.
You've heard the term suppressed listings, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it wasn't a suppressed listing, I don't think, but I don't know if that's exactly what that means, but I just know that the reason why they got rid of the buy box was because apparently it was online cheaper somewhere else or something. And so they're apparently Amazon's.
Yeah, a suppressed buy box is what I meant to say. Basically, that's the description of the exact scenario you mentioned, where in Amazon's infinite wisdom, in their opinion, the price that the sellers currently selling the product or are selling at is too high. And that makes them grumpy and disappointed. So they take the buy box away, where you can't see the price of the product without clicking an extra button. And that does hurt conversion rates.
Uh-huh.
So basically, Amazon makes the decision to hurt everybody involved, themselves included.
Yeah.
Because they think a price is a little higher than they think it should be.
Well, what's weird about that is almost identical products, same volume, same size, whatever, exact same price. But for some reason, they're just picking on this one.
It's not consistent at all. It's almost like there's someone who's just kind of randomly pulling ASINs out of a hat going, let's suppress this buy box today, and let's suppress this one today, and how about this one too? And then now let's reinstate this one. So there's no logic to it. There's no logic to the rationale of why they do it. There's no rationale to when they do it. There's no rationale to when they turn it off. But it is a reality. It's just one of those random realities that you have to deal with. And you guys said you tried lowering the price. Sometimes that'll get the attention of Amazon. Sometimes just seeing a few sales kind of pop through anyway, that'll get Amazon's attention. Hey, the customers don't mind. It's an inconvenience for the customers who are trying to buy it as well.
Right.
Because they're wondering, what's wrong with this listing? Is there something I should know? I paid the same amount last month for this product, and now there's no price tag there. What's going on? So they kind of move on because of the extra step of inconvenience.
Right.
So that's what you experienced. But quite often that also represents opportunities. There'll be some sellers who look for buy box suppressed listings, knowing that everyone's being inconvenienced and maybe kind of drifting away from what otherwise would be a pretty hot opportunity. So they kind of, they park on it. Where you guys were selling 3 a day, they'd be happy to sell 2 or 3 a month at a nice profit margin. So it's a great ASIN for them because they know in order to qualify for Amazon to suppress the buy box on a listing, it has to be something that customers are paying attention to, Amazon's paying attention to. There's other competitive places the product can be bought. It's getting a lot of attention, in other words. So there's opportunity there. But if you're looking for like a magic solution to like, how do I keep that from happening? There's nothing you can do.
Right.
That's just part of one of, 40 ways things can drift into the do not buy right now category on any good replen. And that's why it's important that you don't have any emotional attachment to these things.
Right.
And just as soon as it drifts into that, just as fast it can come back. And now it is hey, that's selling again. Let's keep buying these things.
Yeah.
That's why you never have more than a month's worth of any inventory at Amazon for any ASIN.
Right.
So you're not sitting there stuck with, so you guys were selling 3 a day. If you guys had more than 100 units sitting at Amazon, you shouldn't have.
Right. Yeah, that's a difficult one for us to figure out, because, and maybe you can help answer this question. Our concern sometimes has been to run out of inventory, and if we're one of maybe 2 or 3 sellers on there, there's not a lot of people on there, and everybody runs out of stock.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's the odds of that listing just kind of going dead, and then you replenish, but people have forgotten about it, or they stopped buying it?
Yeah.
So that's our concern, is we want to maintain like a steady level of inventory, but we don't know how. I mean, is that a bad idea? Like, is it okay to just let it disappear? And
it's a balancing act. And it's not so much that people lose interest in it. What happens is Amazon's algorithm, the search result algorithm, punishes ASINs that drop to 0.
Right.
But again, there's opportunity in that as well, because you can search, you can use Keepa to do a search and say, what products have recently drifted down into, no sellers, no inventory? Can I go find some of that product somewhere and be the first one to hop back on it and get it rocking again? That could be some big opportunity, because the vast majority of the time, I would say 95% of the time, if an ASIN was good at some point, it's going to be good again in the future. The major exception to that is when it just stops being manufactured and no one can find it anymore.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're really asking is, if we're going to completely analyze the question you just asked me, which stated differently, is what if this thing runs down to 0? Does that hurt us in the search algorithm? If we do go get more inventory and bring it back, are we still going to find our way back to the same kind of result?
Right.
Well, you're probably going to be hurting for a short period of time, but the vast majority of the time, it will bounce back to where it was eventually. But you kind of want to treat it like a new ASIN at that point. Okay. You don't want to jump in and assume it's going to sell 3 a day like it did before. It may take it.
Don't load it back up. Just start sending, maybe not as much inventory in as you did before, and just wait for it to build back up again.
Yeah, but this is also why it's important to send in. Let's say you're trying to maintain an ASIN that has 3 a day sales. So you're sending in 100 at a time, once a month, kind of trying to stay on top of it, right? I would rather see you send in 25 a week. So you can pump the brakes anytime you need to. You can scale up anytime you need to. Amazon's getting a constant flow. So, if it goes bad, it's not going bad on you with 100 in stock. It's going bad on you with, 75, 60, 75 based on what's sold recently. You got the 25 you just bought. We can return those to the manufacturer with our next return shipment and get our money back. And we didn't send it into Amazon. You see what I'm saying? You're more in control. The real time, that's the reason you kind of start drifting into the, there's classes on just in time inventory operations. Everybody needs a smaller warehouse. Everyone's taking smaller risks. Just in time inventory is the way to go. So never having more than a month's worth of inventory sitting anywhere is kind of just good business across the board, not just for replens.
Right.
But frequent shipments helps you stay on top of that. Just that one little change. Instead of sending 100 a month, sending 25 a week, it's a far easier process to control. It's a little more paperwork, but the numbers come out in your favor over the long term, shipping frequently. Hey, we'll get back to the show in just a moment, but I'm excited to tell you about easily one of the top 3 most used Amazon seller tools in our community. I use it. My team uses it every day. The vast majority of the successful interviewed guests on this podcast use the tool. It's called REVSeller, and they've got a special price just for this community. You can see the details of what the tool does and see the special offer at provenamazoncourse.com/REVSeller. I'll spell it REVSELLER. provenamazoncourse.com/REVSeller. It puts all kinds of useful information right on the screen, right on top of any listing on Amazon that helps you make a really fast, good decision on your inventory buys. You're going to love it. Go see what all it can do for you at provenamazoncourse.com/REVSeller. Let's get back to the show. But frequent shipments helps you stay on top of that. Just that one little change. Instead of sending 100 a month, sending 25 a week, it's a far easier process to control. It's a little more paperwork, but the numbers come out in your favor over the long term, shipping frequently. Versus,
do a lot of people run into a scenario where, because we found a breaking point where you're sending in a small amount of product and it costs you more to send it in as opposed to pallets or whatever to send in. And so there's when you're first up and going, there's a breaking point of, okay, in order for us to save money to send it in to help us be more profitable, we got to send a bunch in at one time, or we got to wait and build up all this stuff while some of those listings kind of go dead and it's sitting on our pallet waiting for other listings to come in. I mean, does that make sense? Kind of what I'm saying?
Oh, it absolutely does. And you're going to come out ahead if all things being equal. As a general rule, there's going to be exceptions, of course. If my options are order a little more and save 5%, or get it out of my warehouse now and pay a little bit more for it, it's a little smaller quantity, you're going to typically come out ahead getting it out of your warehouse now, paying a little bit more for your inventory. Okay. Because the opportunities are everywhere.
Right.
And where you start to lose money is going too deep on ASINs that go bad.
Right.
Okay. So you avoid that worst case scenario and you don't get the full benefit of like, man, if we bought 10,000 units, dude, we could pay 28% less. Let's go for it, man. Doing the math in your head real quick. Well, what you don't know when you do that is you just bought 8 months worth of inventory on something. Month 3, that thing is a dead dog. Right. And there you are stuck with all of it. You didn't save 28%. That thing just cost you more than you're ever going to make. So it's all about taking very safe bets. The long-term sustainability. From my vantage point, I haven't seen a lot of businesses. You take the safe bets. If it means you pay a little bit more for your inventory so that you have a little less inventory on hand and you're shipping more often, which is a little more expensive, and not everything goes on a pallet, it's worth it. Because you're keeping your risks minimal. I'd rather have a guaranteed, 15 to 20 to 30% ROI every month versus, man, let's go for that 200. But we could have a negative 200 just as easy if we do that. You follow my logic there?
Oh, for sure.
So question for you, Jim, with inventory and planning, we really don't have a software that kind of helps us out. What would you recommend? Like, what would you use that's the best software out there for inventory planning?
Well, we've got a lot of sellers in our group that use Replen Dashboard to recommend when it's time to buy more and how much more I should buy. It's a good, solid tool. It's as dialed in on that topic as any other tool you'll find. Is it perfect? No. This is an emerging industry. This is an emerging opportunity. The number of people who are doing this at scale hasn't quite justified someone to go out and spend $5 million and build the robust software support solution for every possible occurrence in this business. There's thousands of us doing it, but no one's stepped up to that level yet. But Replen's dashboard comes as close as anyone at monitoring your ASINs. How fast are they selling? How many should we send in next month to monitor our inventory levels? That's going to help you out quite a bit. It becomes pretty invaluable at the point where you've got a few hundred ASINs. It becomes a bit of a no-brainer. It does a lot of other things for you too, but on that one, it's pretty dialed in. It's 85% of what you need there, and no one offers you 100% because there's just too many factors that are out of your control anyway.
Like variables and stuff.
Even with perfect information.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have to look into that.
Okay.
That syncs up with your seller account?
Yep. 100%. I mean, you just turn it on basically, and it starts giving you information.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah. We learned our lesson the hard way with buying something in bulk.
Yeah, we all do, man.
That was fun.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
We'll just say that was fun.
Yeah.
I've got my story. I bought a, what was the product? It was a, man, it had something to do with fireplaces. It's like fireplace cleaning something. And they were just flying. So we started buying pallets of them. And then suddenly the price dropped. Everybody had it. They weren't selling anymore. We're like, oh, we just got a pallet in the door. What are we going to do with this? We let it sit, doing nothing for a while. And then suddenly they stopped making the thing. We didn't know it. But we just happened to notice one day the thing was selling for more money than we'd ever seen before. So we're calling the manufacturer like, we got to get every last one of these that you have. We got to stock up on it before you stop making this thing. Right. So, a lot of times, like I said, those dead dogs come back around given enough time. And more often than not, far more often than not, those ones that we're kind of scrambling like, oh no, how do we get rid of all this extra? Doing nothing is actually a pretty decent plan a lot of times.
Okay.
Letting it sit. We're like, let's let it sit and rot, like what we gotta do. But
I mean, unless it's packages of food that's going to spoil.
We had we had a brand that we got Ungated to sell, and we bought some product in that brand. It sold really well, but then all of a sudden Amazon's like, hey, nobody, as far as we know, nobody can sell this brand anymore. You need to get rid of your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them, did they even give us any time to sell some of it?
A month and a half.
Yeah. So like you said, if you only have a month's inventory in there, but we bought this stuff and some of it, we couldn't even send it in?
No, we were able to send it in, but we were sending it in with only a few weeks left of that.
Yeah, we didn't have time to get to dump it, and we don't really understand why that happened, especially if we got permission, got Ungated to sell it. And then all of a sudden they're saying, no, you can't sell it anymore.
Yeah.
That's something that, we're trying to wrap our heads around still to this day of what's going on with that,
Two things. The first point's fairly easy to make. Do you guys do any merchant fulfill by any chance? Ship the product yourself when it sells?
We like four products, 4 ASINs.
Okay.
And when
because that might have been one where it would have made sense for you to take a shot at it because it would have saved you 2 weeks. If you've only got 3 more weeks left, you don't want to spend 2 weeks just getting this stuff on the shelf.
Right.
I don't know if you guys did that or not, but that I would have pulled the merchant fulfill trigger right then.
Immediately. Okay. Yeah, because it's nice to see that you get in and you say you got a certain amount, you can start selling right away on that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we have people go to stores to load up on REPLENS of retail store, and they're putting it in the shopping cart, listing it as they do, and it's sold before they get to the cashier register.
Right.
Whereas if you go the FBA route, it's going to be 3 weeks or more, maybe sometimes until that stuff's sitting on the shelf ready for a customer to buy it.
Right.
So if time is of the essence, merchant fulfill.
Where they say, hey, you can't sell this stuff anymore, like
right. And that's the second thing I was going to talk about is these, I call them grumpy brands. Now, when you're in the proven product partnering model, those grumpy brands are your friend because now you're the one representing that grumpy brand that's kicking everybody else off the listing and doing what they can. Now, let's talk from a legal vantage point. The first sale doctrine, this is United States commerce law, says if you buy something from me, it's yours now and you can sell it to whoever you want.
Right.
But here's the kicker. Maybe not on any platform you want because Amazon may make a deal with that brand and say, okay, we're locking it down. We're going to avoid any trademark issues, people using your image and your keywords, et cetera. Now it's exclusively sold through you, the manufacturer. That actually ends up in most cases hurting the brand more than it helps. And I'm not going to give my soapbox lecture on why that is right now. But most of the time, they kind of come around back to the conclusion, you know what? This was kind of more fun and more profitable and less work when we had a handful of resellers doing it for us. Let's turn the resale channels open again. And it keeps their stuff from accumulating in the dusty corner of warehouses unused where their buyers are saying, we got plenty of your stuff right now, man, because it kind of locks down the third-party channels and customers just don't even know it's out there. They're only buying the new stuff and the old stuff is kind of, last year's season stuff. It's just kind of stacking up in corners. That hurts the brand. So that's why brands are smarter to open up the resale floodgates. But quite often they don't know that. They haven't learned that lesson yet. or for whatever reason, they're saying, you know what, we're going to go direct to Amazon ourselves. Only this reseller and this reseller is allowed. Amazon, please help us enforce this. And Amazon kind of helps them enforce it. When I say kind of, it's because you still see all kinds of exceptions. Even when Nike tried to do this, they couldn't pull it off. Nike's got a team of 50 high overpaid lawyers assigned to the task, and Amazon's got 30 lawyers on their side assigned to the task, and they still couldn't figure out how to make it work. So they just shredded the agreement and said, okay, resellers, have fun. We can't figure this thing out. We need you guys. So it does happen. Yes, it is part of it. It's almost a similar frustration that you'll feel when your buy box gets suppressed. It's like, what's going on? Why? Everything was great. Everyone was happy. Customers were happy. I'm happy. Amazon's getting paid. And suddenly we're putting the brakes on the whole thing. Well, what's up with that? Well, this is where the classic REPLENS advice comes in. The solution to that problem is go find more REPLENS.
Right.
Let the dead horse die. It was nice. We had a good ride.
Yeah.
Good knowing you, buddy. No emotional attachment whatsoever. We're moving on and cutting our losses, and hope ideally no more than a month's worth of inventory. We can move that on eBay or Facebook Marketplace or our big blowout spring yard sale, right? So we'll do what we got to do to move it. Maybe everyone gets one of those in their Christmas stocking next year on both sides of the family for both of you, right? But you said you just got to get creative sometimes. But you want as few of those as possible. That's why I say you want to get in and be ready to get out fast on anything you're doing. That's the REPLENS model.
Right.
Yeah.
I do have another question and ask for advice on another issue that we've had, ungating. And actually going to your Facebook group, I see this posted all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I look at your group and the posts every single day because I'm always looking for issues that other people have that we may have that I can get answers. I've posted on there a couple times myself to try to get some answers from other sellers. But this story is I had reached out to a brand probably midsummer to ask for a wholesale account. And they came back and said, we don't deal with Amazon sellers. Sorry. Okay. We get those all the time. And then in November, I get an email from them saying, we've changed our mind. We want to work with you. And they gave us a price list of not all their product, but about 15 different products. And they said, we'll start with this. We got so excited. Okay, great. Now this is a product that has one of the 2D barcodes, right? So we ordered, we got it. We go to get ungated. The approval process, we gave them all the information that they've asked, and we get rejected. And they say that we're rejected because they're not accepting the application for used, refurbished, or collectibles, but it's not. We're asking for new. So we did it again, stating, no, this is for new, not. And we've probably done it, 5 or 6 times now, and they keep giving the same.
Have you had the manufacturer reach out to Amazon yet?
No, but we've put their, please reach out to this person.
Sometimes Amazon will, sometimes they won't. But if they get a letter on your behalf, we've had some pretty major brands that we got a letter stating the name of our store, and you can attach that then on the letterhead from the company saying, here's the company telling us that we're an authorized reseller. That'll get the switch flipped quite often. Okay.
Because we did have an experience with another brand where we did the exact same thing, and they just kept saying not enough information. They're very vague. We probably did it 7 or 8 times, and on the 8th time, they're like, "You're approved."
Right.
We did the same thing 8 times, and then that last one.
It's a manual process. You never know who you're going to get. It's a lot easier for them to deny something than to fill in all the blanks it's required to. It takes them 3 seconds to deny somebody. It takes them 45 seconds to allow it. So if they're just having a bad day, it's just like, I'm going to get through this stack real quick. Deny, right? And then you get the other guy who takes his job seriously the next day. It's just one of those things. Amazon is dealing with just an avalanche of applications and email and incoming concerns, and they're staffed to accommodate it. And to their credit, they do a pretty decent job, in my opinion, of getting it right eventually. Right. But this is another case too, where having a guy on call like Jeff Schick, he is the lawyer you may have heard us talk about on recent podcast episodes, Schick, like the razor, jeffschick.com. He's a sponsor of this podcast, but he's got a $90 a month retainer program where he deals with anything legal, Amazon policy, anytime you're dealing with Amazon customer support and they're just not making sense, you send it to him. He's got connections, and he can have conversations with people that to make things happen, basically, because he's a lawyer. And so he can make things typically. Now, I don't know if that's a specific incident that he would 100% guarantee help with, but I'd sure send it to him. Like, hey, we tried 3 or 4 times. The brand is saying we're in. They want us to sell their stuff. Amazon's saying we're not allowed to sell per the brand. Like, how do we escalate this?
Right.
He's a good dude for about $3 a day, man. You can have him on your side and his team. He's got a good team. He represents a lot of sellers in our community. The question often among sellers in our community is, at what point does it make sense for me to begin investing in having Jeff on call, having him on retainer? And I'd say at the point that you can justify it with your profits, it's going to pay for itself eventually. It's kind of like having a good accountant.
Yeah.
They're going to pay for themselves. As a construction business owner, like, how much money has your accountant saved you versus cost you over the years, just in like, hey, you need to tweak this. Hey, time to go buy a new truck, buddy. Like, what? That doesn't make sense. Trust me, I'm saving you money right now. Just like weird advice that you don't know. Yeah, right. So they pay for themselves. And Jeff's kind of the same way, especially at his low price. So that's me hitting every angle I can from a high level, but hopefully you guys, you find that helpful. You will get around it with persistence. You will get approved. It's just a matter of getting it under the right person's nose.
I got to mention, like, whenever we have questions about something, I always tell Branden, I'm like, Branden, just go get on the Facebook group or something. Go find out what's going on, man. And most of the time he comes back with an answer, and it's been great. We've learned a ton.
Awesome.
On how to scale up as well as clean up our act and be more profitable by getting on there and getting answers from other people. It's been invaluable.
Yeah. I love to hear that, man. Awesome. Yeah, keep jumping in there. And the keyword search feature is tremendous. Typically when the ungating conversation gets started, one of the first things I tell people is just get in the Facebook group and type in that word, ungating or ungated, and just look at all the great conversations. You can get a PhD in ungating in about an hour and a half, just popping through.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the best comments someone made the other day, it was probably a couple of weeks ago. Someone said, "Did you try it 10 times?" When it came to ungating.
Right. You haven't tried till you tried it 10 times, man. Yeah. See, but that's the thing. You wouldn't know otherwise. You think, oh, I got denied. Well, I guess it means I can't. No, there's no harm.
And then you give up. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You almost think if you try to submit it again, you're going to get in trouble or something.
Right. Right. Exactly. And just learning that it really is hard to make Amazon mad at you. You'll get some alerts and alarm bells and things will happen. But, there's sellers in our community selling some really big numbers, and their account health numbers are all over the place, and they're getting IP alerts all over the place, and they're handling them. They're not ignoring them by any means, but these are all things you can navigate. None of this is stuff that should be keeping you up at night.
Right. We have, maybe, I don't know if you've experienced this. No, Arizona is growing like crazy, and they're building some processing centers here.
Right.
And so we've during the summer, we figured out palletizing. That's been great for us because it saves some money. We're starting to scale up that we had enough product to put on pallets, but we've noticed that all of our things were going to Henderson, Nevada. That was great. But since December, all of a sudden they're splitting our pallets up to 3 different locations, Henderson, and then 2 locations here in Phoenix. Well, we don't have 3 pallets ready. We usually do 1 pallet at a time. And so now, because it's split it up, it's tying up our inventory. We're not able to send it out as fast. I don't know if you've heard of other sellers that are experiencing this, because it just barely started happening to us.
Yeah, that's a higher level discussion. And I would say it's a little outside. I mean, I could push you in the right direction. I know there's a guide to palletizing in the Proven Amazon course, and there's also a guide to, getting it all out the door as efficiently as possible as you start to scale and you're making some bigger shipments, that sort of thing. Trying to get it to go to one prep center, for example, or one fulfillment center at a time versus being spread all over the place. Those kind of strategies are taught in depth, how to get in, make those things happen. But off the top of my head, I can't say I've got a power tip for you. that would resolve your specific scenario. So I think I'd refer you to one, that's a great question to ask in the Facebook group. And two, there is training inside the Proven Amazon course on palletizing and efficiently moving as much inventory as possible without being spread out over multiple warehouses. So we do cover those topics, but it's nothing off the top of my head. It's been a while since I've had to manage that part of my own business.
Right.
So I don't want to give you advice that's not useful or just kind of guessing.
Okay. Another question I actually had for you is, I know that you do a conference once a year.
Yeah.
I haven't really delved into that. What really goes on? What kind of information? What is it?
Yeah. Well, Rich has spoken a couple times, and I think they're up in the air whether they'll be able to make it this year or not, last I heard. But you could certainly get your buddies' input on that for sure. But this is a chance for me to talk about the Proven Conference. Theprovenconference.com has all the details. As of right now, as we're recording this, we haven't announced the city, but we've announced the dates. July 6th through 8th is the dates, 2023. And it's going to be in a Midwest location. That's all we can tell you for now. By the time this episode airs, we may have the city and tickets may even be on sale. But it's 3 days of 5 to 6, maybe 700 people this year. We're not sure exactly, typically, till we start seeing registrations come in. But it's hundreds of people who are doing the business we're talking about, either brand new or all the way up to at a serious, like 7-figure a month level, everything in between. It's breakout sessions talking about every specific detail of the business. A lot of new strategies that are coming down the pike, things we're excited about, things we're launching, and it can help you grow faster. The thing that's going to be the most valuable, though, for sure, for just about everyone who attends, is getting to know some people in the community who are operating in a similar business model with a similar mindset. Mastermind groups form out of this, business opportunities pop up, just getting to know the community a little bit more. And I talk all the time on this podcast about the power of relationships in business, how that's the fastest way to scale. If you're doing your business in isolation, even if it's just the two of you, you kind of feel isolated. Like, man, we don't really know anyone else who's doing this. Yeah, we got Rich, but man, he's a busy guy. But if you can form this group of people who are kind of at a similar stage you are, maybe a few a little ahead of you kind of thing, and just collaborate, and the questions you ask me get way smarter answers, from a group of 10 or 12 people hanging out every once in a while, you can really make some progress fast. And so you can form those kind of things, masterminds and, connections at the event. All of our sponsors come in and, talk about the tools, and it's just it's a great time. We get about 98% of the people who attend saying, I'm absolutely coming back next time, when our post-event surveys. So yeah, we do it upright. And it's not a flashy thing. It's just people with a lot in common hanging out together. And this year, we're going to have over 40 breakout sessions over the 3 days that you can choose from. You get the videos for all of it as an attendee at no cost, because you can't possibly attend all the sessions. But it's going to be a good time, man.
Okay, cool.
It'll be good. So, Jim, is it too much to ask, from your experience with sellers that are successful?
Mm-hmm.
Is there like a range of ROI, profit margin, that people fall within that we should be shooting for?
As you scale, you're going to see that number drop. You're going to be getting a smaller piece of a much bigger pie, because you've got more people working on your team. You've got more overhead. I'm sure it's the same in the construction business, right? You operate as a one-man show, killer margins, but you can only do a house at a time. You get a team of 30 guys. Okay, we've just multiplied how much revenue we're generating by a big number, but the percent that goes to the owner now is considerably less because of all the overhead. We're talking a lot more wheels on the ground, right? This business is no different, meaning, you can start off as a one-man show hustling, seeing 30, 35% net margins. Hustle, do it all yourself. Then you start to add in people and processes and tools and other, facilities, etc. And you get down into the 15 on the low bar for someone who's
cut that in half,
rocking it. You can cut it in half, but you're getting 15% of a $4 million pie instead of 35% of a $500,000 pie.
Yeah, sure.
So you're still putting a lot more money in the bank, but you will see your margins shrink over time. It's just the reality of business. let alone, the how punished we are for succeeding with the tax system we have in place. That's a big factor right there. We all know that one. The more money you make, the more you pay higher tax rate on that each time you get into that new bracket. It's a little harder to climb the ladder, basically, the higher you go. So you'll feel those pain points, but it's a bigger piece of it's a bigger pie that you're getting a piece of.
Now, are those numbers is that like the margin on like RevSeller, not the ROI? Is that like the margin?
That's total net margin.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just talking, what you put in the bank after everything's paid for.
Right.
Right. Those are just some round numbers. And, there's people perfectly happy to operate lower than 15%. And there's people figured out creative ways to get above 35. But that's kind of the window most people operate in. And the numbers tend to shrink as your business, the net margin number shrinks as your business grows, just as our total rough estimate.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And that's before you've paid yourself too. Okay.
Yeah.
That's everything except paying yourself. Pulled out that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to know, because you're trying to, like you said, without having a community of people to talk to that are doing it, you're like, dude, are we making money or not making money?
Is this how it's supposed to look? Yeah. Right.
I mean,
That's the exact kind of question you go. One of the things I encouraged everyone who attended last year, for example, I said, this is one of the few environments where you can just go up to random people who have a name tag on and just say, hey, my name's Jim. I see your name's Bob. How's business, man?
Yeah.
Tell me about it. What things are you struggling through right now? And they'll turn around and ask you the same question. And he'll say, hey, you know what? I was just talking to somebody. This guy over here, like, he's doing the exact same thing that you're talking about right now. And I think he's got it figured out. Let me go introduce you to Ed over here, and you go over and have a conversation. So that's the value. You can just really cram a lot of networking and getting these kind of questions answered. And because this is developing, like I said, this is an emerging, developing opportunity. The rules for a lot of this and what it's supposed to look like just haven't been written yet in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's cool to have that group, that community that's, forthcoming with information, not so, it doesn't seem so cutthroat,
Yeah, it really isn't. We don't see each other as competitors. There's just so much opportunity out there. We've talked about how we can all have as much success as we want to have. And there's just millions and millions of replens listings out there to be discovered. None of us are going to tap into and dominate. It's just, it's opportunities really is everywhere. E-commerce is growing rapidly.
Yes.
Oh man, I can't even tell you how excited I am to try to scale it up, because we've had this conversation multiple times. I mean, I have to hit in construction, and Branden knows what this is like working in the industry. You're hitting deadlines. You got somebody to answer to. There's 50 million emails in one day that you got to respond to. And somebody's getting mad that something's not happening. And I'm like, I sometimes I just check away from that. And I'm like, dude, I'm just going to go do Amazon. And
Yeah.
I don't have anybody harassing me right now.
I'll tell you what you're noticing is the pace.
Right.
It's a different pace.
Yeah.
And
it seems like you can set your own pace, which is what's great about it. I hear
that's right.
I mean, aren't there people that just kind of do it in the fourth quarter? There's some people that do it once a month, and they just kind of do their own thing. And it's not, you don't have somebody jumping down your throat saying, hey, you didn't do enough.
Right. Yeah. It's up to you. You get the results based on what you put in or what the people you've hired put in. Plenty of people have completely automated this. I mean, we've got people selling 6 figures a month, traveling the country in an RV with their spouse in their retirement years, checking their numbers once a week because they've got virtual assistants in charge of finding replens, in charge of ordering replens that are sent to a prep center. It's all done OA, online arbitrage style. And that's the biz. Replens come and go without them even knowing it.
Yep.
Yeah, it seems like the more successful you get, the less you check your numbers, right? Like when we first got doing this, we're watching football and we're like, an alert would go off. Dude, we just sold this.
Refresh. Yeah.
We're up to $10. We're up to $20. Yeah,
it's a blast.
It was fun.
It feels like you're playing a video game almost. You got to remind yourself that's real money. It spends just like the other money.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was really fun doing it. I almost kind of miss it. We don't do it as much. We still do it. But literally every second, we're like, dude, did you see what we just sold?
Yeah.
But yeah.
I've been doing this for well, as the only income for my family for 20 years and 22 years, 23 playing on around back when I had a real job still. And I can tell you, it never gets old checking the numbers. When it's your business,
right?
Never gets old. Never gets old.
The excitement is still there every time we find a new listing and it starts selling. We just, hooray.
100%. I get excited. I get giddy. I see a new replen pop through and sell. And, we have one right now that costs us less than $1 that's selling for close to 30. It's one of the best we've ever seen. And we're one of a few sellers on it.
That's
and I know it's got a shelf life, something will happen within the next few weeks or months. Maybe not.
Somebody will find it.
Pretty deep to find it, but who knows? But yeah, loving it. Just seeing those sales pop through, knowing my entire team got paid today, which includes, I've got 2 of my kids and my aunt that I love, and my mom, obviously love her. And these people, they're supported from this business. So I see those sales popping through, and it's not like, money for me. It's like my team is taken care of. I've built a system that's supplying the needs of people I love and care for, and good workers, and our customers through our prep center, and it's very rewarding. And you've experienced that in the construction. You got a lot of guys you're responsible for and such, but to be able to do that at a pace where it's not beating you up every day, it's such a pleasure.
Yeah, well, it's nice too. Sometimes Branden will find something, he'll buy it, he'll ship it and send it in. I have no idea. I look on there and I'm like, what the heck is this? I'm like, we make money off of this? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, So it's nice having a partner that can help you with it, and you get to see the the fruits of his labor and stuff like that, and just kind of relax. It's nice, but so I'm definitely looking forward to scaling up and making this a permanent part of my life.
Beautiful. Yeah, you'll enjoy the journey. Keep it rocking. Well, I do need to get going, fellas. Is there anything else that we left off today? I got a little more time. Anything that was on your list you wanted to bounce off me real quick? Otherwise, I think we put together a pretty good episode for the listeners today.
I answered all the questions I needed to. And
did you? Okay, good.
Yeah, I think I learned a lot, and it was a good experience. So I think I got questions answered and stuff too. So
awesome. Good to hear it, Shane. Well, let me talk to the listeners for just a moment then, and we'll wind this one up. Hopefully you as a listener to this show enjoyed just as much as I did today, hanging out with a couple great guys from the construction industry. They're new to e-commerce, but they're doing some great things. They're building a beautiful business, and hopefully you enjoyed their transparency today. I know I did. I learned from them, and I think they've learned a few things from us as well here. So on behalf of the whole team that puts these episodes together, thanks for hanging out with us today. And to my guests, Branden and Shane, you guys did great. Thanks once again, fellas.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Appreciate it a lot. And hope to see you in July as well at the conference, man. Let's make that happen. But on behalf of the whole team, God bless the business building warriors out there. We'll have another great episode for you very soon. Hey, before we end the episode, I want to tell you about one of the tools that has been a favorite in this community for a very long time. I would say 95% of the leaders and coaches on our team have used or are actively using right now RevSeller. Right on the screen in front of you, when you're on Amazon, using it as if you were a shopper, you can see so much information about every ASIN that you're looking at. You can tell if it's going to be profitable for you or not. You can get a nice offer on this tool by going to provenamazoncourse.com/RevSeller. It's a very aggressive price discount that they have just for this community. You won't find a better price anywhere, and it helps you make really good decisions really fast. I use it personally. My team uses it. Next to Keepa itself, this is probably one of the most popular tools among the REPLENS sellers in our community. Again, I'm talking about RevSeller. You can go to provenamazoncourse.com/RevSeller, REVSELLER.com, and see what we're talking about. We've even integrated this tool into quite a bit of the training that you're going to see if you go through the Proven Amazon course training. We rely on it heavily. Go check it out. Thanks for listening today. We'll have another great episode for you again real soon.